Hello, my name is Daniel, and today, I want to share with you my personal journey, a journey of struggles, realizations, and ultimately growth. It's the story of my life without English and how that affected me in ways I never expected. Growing up, I didn't think much about English. In fact, I used to think that I didn't need it at all. English seemed like something foreign, something I wouldn't have much use for in my daily life. However, as I grew older, I realized just how much not knowing English was holding me back from opportunities, experiences, and even simple joys in life. Growing up without English. I was born and raised in a small town where most people, including my family, didn't speak English. We communicated in our native language, and that seemed enough for the life I had. My parents didn't speak English, and in school, although we had English classes, I never took them seriously. English felt too far removed from my everyday life. It was just another subject I had to pass in school, and I didn't see any immediate value in learning it. Why bother with English when everyone around me spoke our native language? That was the attitude I had throughout my childhood. I didn't have many role models who encouraged me to learn English. My parents, hardworking people who did everything they could to provide for us, never needed English in their lives. They worked manual jobs and got by just fine with our native language. So, in my mind, English wasn't important. I would get by without it, just like they did. But as I entered my teenage years, I began to realize that life without English was more challenging than I had ever imagined. Looking for a job. The first real wake-up call came when I was around 16 years old. I wanted to get a job to help support my family. We weren't rich, and money was always tight. I knew that if I could get a decent job, I could contribute to the household income and make life a little easier for everyone. So, I started looking for work. At first, I thought it would be easy. There were several businesses in town, restaurants, shops, hotels, and factories. I figured I would apply and get hired without much trouble. But I quickly discovered that many of these places required employees to speak some level of English, especially businesses that dealt with tourists or international clients. The world was becoming more globalized, and even in my small town, English was becoming essential for communication. I applied to several places, but every time they found out I couldn't speak English, I was turned down. It was disheartening. I knew I was a hard worker, and I was confident I could do the job well. But none of that mattered because I didn't know English. Every rejection made me realize that not speaking English was more than just a minor inconvenience. It was a barrier. A barrier that kept me from getting a job, earning money, and helping my family. I remember one particular job interview vividly. It was for a position at a hotel that catered to tourists from all over the world. I walked in feeling nervous but hopeful. The manager greeted me warmly and started asking questions. At first, the interview was in our native language, and I felt confident. But halfway through, the manager switched to English. He wanted to know if I could communicate with international guests. I froze. I didn't understand the question, and I couldn't respond. The manager smiled politely but told me that English was essential for the job and that I wasn't qualified. I left that interview feeling embarrassed and defeated. That was the moment I realized that my lack of English wasn't just holding me back from one job, it was limiting my entire future. Without English, I would always be stuck in low-paying, low-skilled jobs. I would never have the chance to advance or explore better opportunities. And that was just the beginning of my struggles. The struggles of daily life. As I grew older, I began to notice more and more how not knowing English was affecting my everyday life. For example, I loved using the internet to learn new things, but I quickly realized that most of the valuable information online was in English. Whether I was trying to learn something new, watch a video, or even read an article, everything was in English. Sure, there were some websites and resources in my native language, but they were limited. Most of the best content, the tutorials, the educational materials, the articles on interesting topics, were in English. I would try to watch YouTube videos, but they were all in English, and I couldn't follow along. I would click on articles to learn about subjects that fascinated me, but I couldn't understand the text. I felt like I was on the outside, looking in. The internet was supposed to be a place where you could learn anything, explore new ideas, and connect with people from all over the world. But without English, it was like a locked door. I was stuck, unable to fully participate in the online world. It was frustrating, and I began to realize just how much I was missing out on. Another struggle I faced was when I tried to travel. I remember the first time I visited a big city outside my small town. It was a popular tourist destination, and I was excited to explore it. But as soon as I arrived, I encountered a new problem. Most of the signs, menus, and instructions were in English. I wanted to visit famous landmarks, eat at restaurants, and experience the city, but I constantly found myself lost and confused. I couldn't read the signs or understand the maps. Even asking for help was difficult. Many of the people in the city spoke English, and when I tried to ask for directions, they responded in English. I felt like a stranger in my own country. The language barrier made it hard for me to enjoy the trip, and I ended up feeling isolated and frustrated, missing educational opportunities. But the biggest struggle of all came when I realized that not knowing English was holding me back from furthering my education. By the time I was 18, I knew that I wanted to learn more about technology. I had always been interested in computers, and I dreamed of one day becoming a software developer. But when I looked for online courses or educational materials, I encountered the same problem. Everything was in English. The best courses, the most up-to-date tutorials, and the most informative articles were all in English. I tried using translation tools or finding courses in my native language, but they were limited, outdated, or poorly translated. I couldn't keep up with the fast-paced world of technology without knowing English. It was heartbreaking because I knew that if I wanted to pursue my passion and build a career in technology, I needed to learn English. Without it, I was stuck. I couldn't move forward. I felt like I was falling behind while everyone else was moving ahead. The realization. One event that truly opened my eyes was when I attended a technology conference in a nearby city. I was so excited because the conference featured speakers from all over the world who were experts in technology and innovation. I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to learn more about the field I was passionate about. But when I arrived, I quickly realized that all the presentations were in English. I sat there, surrounded by people who were listening attentively, taking notes, and asking questions. Meanwhile, I couldn't follow along. The speakers used technical terms and complex language that I didn't understand. I tried to focus, hoping I could pick up a few things, but it was no use. I was lost. The entire conference went by, and I hadn't learned a single thing. I felt embarrassed, frustrated, and defeated. I left early because I couldn't bear to sit through another presentation that I couldn't understand. That day, I realized something important. English was the key to learning, growing, and participating in the world around me. It wasn't just about getting a job anymore. It was about having access to information, being able to communicate with others, and understanding the world on a deeper level. Making the change. After that experience, I knew I had to make a change. I couldn't continue living a life where I was always left behind because I didn't know English. It was time to take responsibility for my education and start learning. I began by doing simple things like watching English movies with subtitles, listening to English music, and reading beginner-level English books. At first, it was hard. I felt like I was starting from scratch, and it was frustrating to see how little I understood. But I kept pushing myself because I knew that learning English was the only way to break free from the limitations I had placed on myself. As I learned more, I started to see the benefits. I could understand more of what I saw online, I could communicate better when traveling, and I even started applying for jobs that required basic English skills. The more I learned, the more confident I became. I wasn't fluent yet, but I could see the difference in my life. I wasn't stuck anymore. The impact of English. Learning English has changed my life in ways I never imagined. It has opened doors that were once closed to me. I've been able to get better job opportunities, travel more comfortably, and learn new things that I'm passionate about. But perhaps the most important change has been the way English has connected me to the world. I can now communicate with people from different countries, access information from around the globe, and participate in conversations that I was once excluded from. English has become a tool for growth, success, and connection. It has allowed me to step out of the small bubble I once lived in and see the world in a new light. Looking back, I realize how much I struggled without English. But I also realize how much I've gained since I started learning it. My journey isn't over yet, I'm still learning every day, but I'm no longer held back by language barriers. I'm moving forward, and that's what matters most.
Subscribe for more videos. Your support helps me create more content. Thanks for watching.